Krishna, Krishna, Hare.
All right, so thank you all, dear devotees. We are very much blessed by the mercies of the Lordships and Shri Gurudev. We are here again today, Monday, beginning of the week. So we have His Grace, YASODEVA Prabhu, whom I will introduce later on, hopefully after the Katha, where we may have more devotees than we do now. So devotees may get to know him better. But Prabhuji is my brother. We are all here in Gitanagari. And he is speaking for the first time on this platform today. So we all have to try and give him a very big welcome by being very attentive to his katha. And if at the end we have some questions, doubts, and clarifications we need from him, he may do those from us. So with that being said, His Grace YASODEVA Prabhu, what we usually do is it's just like a temple room setting. So Srila Prabhupada has already chanted the Jai Radha Madhava. Some devotees still prefer to chant the Jai Radha Madhava. And if you desire to do that, you may do so, you may chant. Otherwise, lots of devotees are just, okay, Srila Prabhupada chanted the Jai Radha Madhava, and then they go straight into the text. And you chant the Sanskrit, you read the purport, you read the translation purport, you speak on it. But devotees may not repeat the slokas with you because it creates this uniformed echo. So with that being said, we're going to put the verse on the screen and then you take it over. Hare Krishna. And our obeisances. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Just want to first check to make sure that you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you so much to Sahadeva Prabhu for inviting me to join your Sangha. Such an honor to meet some devotees from the African Yatras. Of course, I know many here in Gitanagari. Again, my name is YASODEVA Das. Been serving here in the Gitanagari area for about 8 years. And before that in Australia and New Zealand and in America and some places. But anyway, let's just hear some SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. Today, if I understand correctly, we're reading from the 2nd canto, 5th chapter, text number 2. We've already heard Jai Radha Madhava, so I'll just recite some pranam mantra, starting with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, chapter 5, text number 2. This is Narada Muni asking questions to his father, Brahma. So he says, Yadrupam yadadishtanam yathashrishtam idam prabho yat sangstam yat param yachcha tat tatvam vada tatvataha Yadrupam yadadishtanam yathashrishtam idam prabho yat sangstam yat param yachcha tat tatvam vada tatvataha Yadrupam yadadishtanam yathashrishtam idam prabho Yat sangstam yat param yachcha tat tatvam vada tatvataha. Word for word translation says, Yat, what? Rupam, the symptoms of manifestation. Yat, what? Adishtanam, background. Yataha, from where? Shishtam, created. Idam, this world. This is very important. In Sanskrit, we see this word idam so many times. And most often it means this manifested world, the world that we experience with our senses. Literally in Sanskrit just means this, but more specifically means this whole world. Prabhu, oh my father. You can see the tradition of saying Prabhu. Even Narada Muni says it to his father. Yet in which? Samkstam, conserved. Yet what? Param, under control. Yet what are? Cha, and tat, of this. Tattvam, the symptoms. Vada, please describe. Tattvataha, factually. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Narada Muni says, my dear father, please describe factually the symptoms of this manifest world. What is its background? How is it created? How is it conserved? And under whose control is all this being done? That's the important part of the question. Under whose control is all this being done? So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport here, the inquiries by Narada Muni on the basis of factual cause and effect appear very reasonable. The atheists, however, put forward many self-made theories without any touch of cause and effect. The manifested world, as well as the spirit soul, is still unexplained by the godless atheists through the medium of experimental knowledge, although they have put forward many theories manufactured by their fertile brains. I love Srila Prabhupada's tongue-in-cheek criticism of the atheists. Continuing on, he says, contrary to such mental speculative theories of creation, however, Narada Muni wanted to know all the facts of creation in truth and not by theories. Transcendental knowledge regarding the soul and the supersoul includes knowledge of the phenomenal world and the basis of its creation. In the phenomenal world, three things are factually observed by any intelligent man: the living beings, the manifest world, and the ultimate control over them. The intelligent man can see that neither the living entity nor the phenomenal world are creations of chance. The symmetry of creation and its regulative actions and reactions suggests the plan of an intelligent brain behind them. And by genuine inquiry, one may find out the ultimate cause with the help of one who knows them factually. Hare Krishna, another powerful purport from His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada doesn't pull his punches. He's not afraid to criticize the atheists, especially in their nonsense. Before I comment a little more, I'll just recite some mantras in appreciation and respect to my spiritual master, to all of our acharyas, and to Krishna, of course. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada's purport here is very powerful. He's making a strong criticism of the atheists, and if we are a little bit self-reflective, we can see that he's making a strong criticism of us. He says that the intelligent person can see three things: the manifested world, the living entities, and the ultimate control over all of them. But we have to ask ourselves, are we also intelligent enough to see these three things? Sometimes we don't see the ultimate control of the Lord over everything. Sometimes we are just concerned with the manifest world, owing to our addiction to sense gratification. So let's not make the assumption that just because we are devotees, just because we have Srimad Bhagavatam in our hands, therefore we are in this intelligent category that Srila Prabhupada is talking about. We need to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam how Krishna is controlling everything. Otherwise, we forget very quickly. Maybe it's just me. I can't speak for all of you devotees, but I forget sometimes. And I think, no, I'm in control. I got it. I got a little money in the bank. I have a few people underneath me. They have to look up to me. So I'm in control. It's easy for us to forget the ultimate control of the Lord. That's why we read Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada said, we don't just want to see pictures of Krishna dancing with the gopis in the forest of Vrindavan. We want to see how Krishna is controlling everything. He said this to the BBT artists. They're painting so many pictures of Krishna with the gopis. He said, paint a picture showing how Krishna controls everything. This is intelligence. If we forget how the Lord is in control, then we can't appreciate his dancing with the gopis, his pastimes in Vrindavan. Vikriditam Vrajavadubir idam cha Vishnu. Shukadev Goswami says, it is so amazing that Vishnu, the controller, is dancing with the Vrajavadu, the wives of Vrindavan, enjoying so many pastimes with them. He makes it very clear we're talking about Vishnu, the supreme controller, the Lord and master of everything and everyone. He's the one who's enjoying dancing down by the bank of the Jamuna. If we don't appreciate how Krishna is controlling everything, then we'll fail to understand the significance of Krishna's intimate pastimes in Vrindavan. To that end, we're so fortunate to have the Srimad Bhagavatam, which makes it very clear how Krishna controls. Narada Muni is asking this question. Narada Muni is a very advanced person. He's very advanced in bhakti, in spiritual science, but he's asking his father. He wants to know very clearly, what are the symptoms of this manifest world? How is it created? How is it conserved? And under whose control is all this being done? This is a very intelligent question. Naturally, at some point, all of us start to ask this question, right? At least as children, we ask our parents. I have young children now, 5 years old and 2 years old. And they ask, how does the tree grow? How does the sun come up? Why do the birds sing? So on and so forth. This is very intelligent. Children, they have that natural innocence to inquire, just like Narada Muni does. At some point, however, we become so infatuated with material existence, with sense gratification, that we stop asking. In our teenage years and our young adult life, unless we're in the association of progressive spiritual people, unless we're in the association of devotees, we stop asking, who's really in control? Because then we start to feel ourselves in control. We start to think, no, who's really, we start to say to our children, right? I'm in control. Fathers, we talk like this sometimes, right? For all the fathers in the room, you know what I'm talking about. We start to tell the kids, no, I'm in control. I'm the boss. So let's not forget to inquire just like Narada Muni. Even though some of us are in our middle age, we're not children. We're not so elderly. We're in our middle time period. Still, we should inquire just like Narada Muni does. Who's really in control here? How is this material world working? So Prabhupada says that this sort of inquiry, these questions are the most reasonable Let's not forget to always ask the question, who is in control? How is this world really working? It's so easy for us to forget because there's endless distraction in the form of entertainment, endless scrolling, endless useless news about this thing and that thing. Let's not forget to ask this simple question all the time. How is this world working and who's really in control? That's why we're so fortunate to come together and read SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, so that we remember. Anyway, let's say a little something about theories about the material universe, because in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is criticizing the atheists. With one fell swoop, Prabhupada dismisses all of the atheists and their theories because they do not consider cause and effect. The atheistic, materialistic theories only consider effect. We have to recognize that all of the great scientists of the world, well, not all of them, most of the popular scientists of the world who put forward so many theories about the nature of this universe, they're only concerned with the effect. They say in the beginning, somehow it all just happened. And now we understand very clearly that the planets rotate like this, and the physical atoms are like that, and the chemistry moves like this, and the biology evolves like that. But they cannot consider what is the original cause. There was a famous scientific philosopher, a philosopher of science. His name was Terence McKenna. And he said, materialistic science works on this one principle. You give us one miracle and we'll explain everything else. He said, you just have to give us one miracle and then we can explain the rest of the whole universe. So that one miracle is that the whole universe somehow is created with all of the, the energies, all of its matter, and all the energies between the matter working in perfect synchronicity for whatever reason. He said, you just give us that one miracle and then we'll explain everything else. So this is obviously very limited and very frustrating. Prabhupada says here in this purport, the material world, the manifested world, as well as the spirit soul, is still unexplained by the godless atheists through the medium of experimental knowledge, although they have put forward many theories manufactured by their fertile brains. I'm sure everyone here has heard so many of those theories. For a long time, the Big Bang was the main theory. Somehow there was a super dense chunk of whatever and it exploded, and miraculously everything that we know came into existence in perfect balance and perfect synchronicity. Now that theory is not so popular. Now more people have a theory of multiverse, that there must be many, many universes that come into existence and immediately dissolve or implode, and only our universe very conveniently, how do you say it, like it stayed up. Like many bubbles in boiling water, you're boiling water, lots of bubbles, they come and they immediately pop. But sometimes you'll have a little bubble that stays on the surface of the water. So they say our universe is like that. The multiverse theory, not from those Marvel movies. I'm talking about in the universities. This is how they just talk about it. That many universes, they constantly come into existence, but then they just go kaput. They just pop. But our universe, for some reason, very fortunate, very lucky, just happened to continue existing like a bubble that doesn't pop. The reason the scientists must have this new theory is because of how we observe a very fine tuning in the universe. I wonder how many of you have heard of this concept, the finely tuned universe. This is a counter argument to the idea that, the universe just sort of burst into existence by chance. Prabhupada mentioned chance in this purport here, right? What did he say? The intelligent man can see that neither the living entity nor the phenomenal world are creations of chance. The symmetry of creation and its regulative actions and reactions suggests the plan of an intelligent brain behind them. Now, the devotees, of course, we recognize that Krishna creates everything. There's an intelligence behind this universe. But even some of the most materialistic and atheistic scientists admit that there appears to be a symmetry of creation and its regulative actions. They call that, in the scientific terminology, the finely tuned universe. I wonder how many of you have heard of this finely tuned universe, also sometimes called the anthropic principle. Finely tuned universe suggests that there's certain values in the fundamental physical qualities of this universe. And if those values were even slightly changed, then the world as we know it just can't exist. I'll give an example. Like there's a certain gravitational force between a pair of protons. You know, we understand how an atom works. It's got protons and neutrons in the middle and electrons going around them. And there's different sizes and combinations that create the different material elements. But there's a certain force that occurs between these two pairs of protons. And it is approximately 10 to the 36th power of electromagnetic force. 10 to the 36th power. That's a huge number. That means you take a 10 and you put 36 zeros behind it. I don't even know what that's called. It's just such a huge number. But if that number were even slightly different, if it were just slightly smaller, say 10 to the 35th power, then those protons would not be able to attract to each other and combine and create larger atoms. The electromagnetic force between two tiny little protons is so precise. If it were even slightly different, then those protons could not combine. And we basically wouldn't have any matter. So this is what materialistic scientists are recognizing. That is a very precise number. And it seems finely tuned. You know, like if you're baking cookies in the oven, you pick a very precise number. You don't just leave it to chance. Let me pick a random number when you're baking your cookies. No, you have to pick a very specific number. So it seems to imply that there's an intelligence behind it. There are more examples of this finely tuned universe. And that is here's one called the fusion of hydrogen to helium. And that's not the one I wanted to talk about. There's other really interesting ones. No, yeah, that one. You have these nucleons and they fuse into helium. The most basic atom in the universe, as scientists know, is just hydrogen. It's just one proton and one electron circulating around it. But to have those two atoms fuse into something more complex, which is helium, that's two protons and electrons going around it, there has to be a very specific force of nuclear fusion. And it's approximately 0.7% of the mass of those two different atoms, those two hydrogen atoms. There's a certain mass, and exactly 0.7% of that mass is the amount of energy needed to make those two atoms fuse together and create a more complex atom, namely helium. Now, if that value were even slightly smaller, if it were only 0.6% of the mass of those two protons, then there would only be hydrogen in the universe. There wouldn't be anything else. There wouldn't be any more complex matter. And if it were slightly greater, 0.7% of the energy of that mass, then there wouldn't even be hydrogen. Nothing could form together. So again, that they found that the energy between the mass of those two tiny little protons, those two tiny little atoms of hydrogen is so significant, so finely tuned, that if it were even slightly different number, just the universe as we know it cannot possibly exist. There's a lot more examples. I can't really go through the whole list of the examples because I don't understand them that well, to be honest. But you can ask some devotees who are more studied in physics, and they can tell you that this is a serious problem for atheistic scientists. They recognize that it's very improbable that this occurs by chance. As Prabhupada's saying in this purport, the intelligent man can see that neither the living entity nor the phenomenal world are creations of chance. And that's just in physics. There's another very popular theory in the world about the origin of life. It's called evolution theory. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. You've probably heard of this one. It's very obnoxious, and Prabhupada was not a fan. There is a scientist, a mathematician, right here at Penn State, where I live. I live close to Penn State University, about an hour away from Gitanagari. And there's a mathematician right here at Penn State University who calculated the probability that these random mutations could produce the sort of complex evolution of biological life within the limited time frame that most scientists agree that this Earth exists for. He said the probability of all of that random mutation occurring to create the sort of complex life that we know of by evolution, by chance. And he's saying that the probability is so infinitesimally small. Again, it's a number like 10 to the 14th power to 1. The chance of it happening is so infinitesimally small that we cannot call it science. This is the argument of this mathematician. He's a Penn State mathematician. He said the chance of it happening is so infinitesimally small, you cannot call it scientific. He, of course, was not very popular with many of his colleagues. But nowadays, many scientists, they recognize this. We cannot say that it's just a matter of chance. Prabhupada says in the purport, the symmetry of creation and its regulative actions and reactions suggests the plan of an intelligent brain behind them. A lot of materialistic scientists now, they admit this. It's just too convenient for us to say that happened by chance and without direction. And so therefore, there are many scientific communities and institutions in the world that are trying to put forward more of a concept of intelligent design. I'm sure many devotees have heard of this term before. Intelligent design is a philosophy of science which recognizes that scientific observations and principles, they must point to an intelligent design. They cannot be explained without recourse to some sort of intelligent being. That doesn't mean that you can't do epistemological science. It doesn't mean that you can't use evidence, you can't do experimentation, you can't produce new technologies. It means just recognizing that these things don't occur randomly and by chance, but that they point to some sort of intelligence, which of course for most of us means understanding God, Krishna. So that's why Narada Muni is making this questioning. He wants to know, what is the real cause behind it? Under whose control is everything being done? Because we cannot be satisfied with the theories of the materialistic scientists who are only concerned with the effect, but know nothing about the cause. It's not enough for the intelligent person. Prabhupada says that very clearly here. An intelligent person can see that it's not a creation of chance. So because we're all intelligent, somehow we've come in contact with intelligent devotees, our spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, we want to know, what is the real cause? It cannot simply be chance. We're so fortunate to have the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, which makes this all very, very clear. As we know, the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM has 10 subject matters, right? Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam. Sarga means there's the elemental creation. That's one of the subjects of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, especially we're reading about it in the second canto. The elemental creation. And then Visarga, the secondary creation by Brahma. He's designing the different forms of life in the universe, creating the human societies along with Manu, the Prajapatis. That's the secondary creation. The scientists, of course, they're only trying to understand the Sarga, the first elemental creation. They don't understand the secondary creation, that even after God creates all of the elements of this universe, creates the perfect, fundamental principles which keep them working flawlessly, there's also secondary creation by Brahma and many other demigods that continue to make things function perfectly. Materialistic scientists can't understand anything about this, even though that's what they do all day. No government runs without ministers, boards, committees. That's the secondary creation. We have a first creation that's like usually a prime minister or president. You could say that they're like the first creator, the first controller, but they have their subcommittees, their ministers, so many things. So Srimad Bhagavatam describes this very clearly. These are the 10 subjects of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarga, the first creation, Visarga, secondary creation, Sthanam, more description of the different planetary systems. And then there's other subjects, protection by the Lord, the impetus, the different periods of Manus, of course, the histories, and ultimately Ashraya, the supreme shelter. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for understanding who is the supreme shelter. But Narada Muni's inquiry is very important. He wants to know, what is the ultimate cause? He's not just interested in the single elements, how I can fuse, or even how I can break apart some elements and create a nuclear bomb. Now everybody's talking about this movie that's out, Oppenheimer, but the guy who, along with Einstein, invented the nuclear bomb. Prabhupada says this is Ugra karma. This is where science goes now. How can I manipulate the elements to create something that I want or to destroy something? Even here at Penn State, again, where I live and work, there are many students who they get great degrees in engineering. They understand so much physical science, a lot of robotics engineering, and 90% of them, maybe 80% of them, are hired by weapons manufacturers. That's where their intelligence goes. So they understand physics, they understand, they understand computers, they understand software and programming, they understand so many things. But what do? They work for Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and all these weapons manufacturers to create new bombs, new guns, new systems for killing people on the other side of the world. This is Ugra karma, according to Srila Prabhupada. This is what the modern scientists are concerned with. How to take an atom and split it apart. That's the basic principle of the nuclear bomb. I don't understand the science so well. But to split the atom so that it creates such a huge destructive force. Narada Muni, he's inquiring about something very serious. Not just the physical elements, but what is the cause behind it? What is the controller of everything? To help us understand another way of looking at it, I'll reference Aristotle, because we should know a little bit of comparative philosophy. This is one of Aristotle's basic philosophies about 4 causes. When he is also trying to understand the creation of this universe, how it exists the way that it does. He uses an analogy of architecture or building a house. His architectural analogy points to 4 different causes for the creation of something, right? In order to build a house, first you have to have materials. There's wood, there's cement, there might be some electricity, some plumbing, different types of metal, whatever. These are the materials. That's called the material cause, according to Aristotle. Then to put them in the right place requires the energy of some builders or maybe some machinery. There's physical energy involved, right? To put everything in its right place, you got to move the bricks over here. You got to nail the wood over there. But even to put those things in the right place, you have to have a certain design, a specified plan. That's usually the architect. Because usually the builders, they follow a plan. Some builders, they could just do it themselves. We all know some people who are so genius, they can just build a house. But most of the time, people who work as builders, they have to follow a very specific plan, especially if it's a large building. If they make even one small mistake at the bottom, it can cause the 15th floor to just fall over, right? So they follow a very specific plan. That's the 3rd cause, according to Aristotle's analogy of architecture. And then the 4th cause is that somebody wants to have a building. Somebody's paying for it. Somebody desires it. The builders don't just go out there for fun. Anyone who's ever done construction, you don't just go out in the hot sun throwing bricks around just for fun. Somebody desires it. Somebody's paying for it. Without that 4th cause, none of it would be necessary. So Aristotle, with this analogy, is also pointing towards a supreme controller, God. That we can say that there's these elements of material existence and that they work together in certain ways. And that we can see certain patterns in the way physics works, or in the way chemistry works, or certain patterns in the way biology works. But this isn't a cause. According to Aristotle, there must be someone who desires it to happen that way. Everything that we know, it has these 4 causes. Someone must desire it. That's what puts it all in motion. It's what makes it all necessary. So it's very similar to Narada Muni's inquiry. What is the ultimate cause? Who is really controlling it? Who is it that wants it to happen this way? We need to inquire in the exact same way and not forget, not take for granted. Well, what does it matter who's ultimately in control? I have my house, I have my car, I have my stuff. I control those things. What does it matter who's the ultimate controller? Let's not forget. We need to always inquire, just like Narada Muni. Who's the ultimate controller? This is real intelligence. And if we continue to inquire in this way, Prabhupada says in the purport at the very end, that if we inquire in this way, if we're intelligent and with genuine inquiry, we can find the ultimate cause with the help of one who knows it factually. Let's not take for granted how much we understand about the ultimate cause and effect of this universe. Many, many people are struggling with it. They struggle to understand why is it working this way and how. Many, many people are dissatisfied with the mundane, materialistic scientists and their very imaginative explanations. Many people, they're not happy with that. I talk to university students almost every day. They don't buy it. Young people today, they don't buy it. The universe just exploded from nothing. They have a lot of questions about that. They're inquiring. And if they come in contact with someone who knows factually, they have genuine inquiry, then they can really learn. And we can too. Let's not take for granted that actually we know so much about the creation of this universe and how it functions. It makes perfect sense to us. We can see it daily. This is really remarkable. It's the grace of Srila Prabhupada. In one sense, in this purport, he's hinting himself. If you have the help of one who knows factually, then you can know. For us, that's Srila Prabhupada. He gave us the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and now it's very easy for us to understand. How can we understand even better? If we feel like, you know what, I've read Srimad Bhagavatam, I've read Bhagavad Gita, but still I'm struggling to understand how Krishna is the controller of everything. I struggle to understand how this universe is functioning according to the description of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then we need to become a bit more spiritually scientific. And I'm going to finish with a little suggestion, a little recommendation that comes in the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. How to approach it scientifically. And it's something that we sometimes forget. We think, well, I'm reading Bhagavatam, I'm reading Bhagavad Gita. Why do I not have profound realization? Why do I still struggle to understand the cause behind everything? Why do I still struggle to see Krishna as the cause of everything in the world? Sutta Goswami actually answers this question for us. It's in the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll read the two verses. It's, if I can find the right number. Hold on a second. Got my device here. He says, starting from chapter 2, text number 19 in the first canto. It's going to explain to us how we should approach understanding Krishna scientifically. First, he says, Tada rajas tamo bhava, kama lobadayas chaye, cheta itairana vidam stitvam sattve prasidati. Loving service is established in the heart by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you. Actually, Sahadev Prabhu, would you go to the verse before that, text number 18? We all know this verse. We'll start from 18, 19, and 20, and then I'm going to finish talking. But this is a scientific approach to understanding Krishna, God. It starts with Srimad Bhagavatam. Fortunately for all of us, we hear Srimad Bhagavatam class every day. You have your Sangha here, the ISKCON Africa Sangha. We have our local Sangha, Gitanagari. We should try to read Srimad Bhagavatam every day. This is the beginning of the scientific approach to God, not just the sentimental approach. Let's start with this verse where it says, Nashta prayeshva badreshu, nityam bhagavata sevaya, bhagavatyuttama shloke, bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Probably all the devotees, you've heard this verse so many times. By regular attendance and classes on Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Irrevocable means cannot be revoked. Once that's established as a fact in the heart, you cannot give up Krishna. That's the strength of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then in the next verse, we're continuing with our scientific approach to understanding Krishna. Then Sutta Goswami says, Tadarajastamo bhava kamalobadayas chaye cheta etaira navidam stitvam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effect of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, those disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. This is essential for scientific understanding of God. And this is the part that most modern scientists in the universities, in the academies, this is the part they cannot do. If you're affected by the modes of passion and ignorance, you cannot understand God scientifically. Lust, desire, hankering, it skews our perspective, perverts our perspective of the world around us, so that when we look at the material elements, instead of awe and wonder at the glory of the creation of God, we think, how can I split those elements apart and create a nuclear bomb? That's Mayaya Prahita Jnana, because they're affected by passion and ignorance. They do physics, but to create weapons. As I said earlier, so many of the young students that I meet at Penn State University, they end up working for weapons manufacturers. That's the motive, that's the effect of passion and ignorance. But if we want to understand God scientifically, we have to be in the mode of goodness, at least. To be happy in the mode of goodness is actually a scientific prerequisite in Krishna consciousness. And that's explained more explicitly in the next verse, which is where I'll finish, text number 20. Evam prasana manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Sutta Goswami says, thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. Sorry, my son is coming. You want to come or no? This is my little boy, little comic relief from my lecturing. So Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana, that's what we're interested in. That's what Narada Muni is inquiring about. Vijnana means scientific. We have the jnana, right? We've all read Srimad Bhagavatam. We've read Bhagavad Gita. That's jnana. But to have realization, vijnana, scientific understanding, profound realization, such that you can actually see Krishna as the cause of all causes. So we can see Krishna as the origin of everything. To have that vijnana, that realization, there's a scientific prerequisite, and that requisite is to be in the mode of goodness, at least. To be happy in the mode of goodness. It's interesting that they say happiness twice. Right? In text number 19, stitvam sattve prasidati. Prasidati means satisfied or happiness. And then in the next verse, evam prasanna manaso. Prasanna manaso means a happy mind. Then you can actually see Krishna everywhere in the mode of goodness. And we can understand scientifically how Krishna is the cause of all causes. Sarva karana karanam, Brahma Samhita says, right? What is that verse? Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the origin of everything and the cause of all causes. But for us to have that profound realization, that vijnana, we have to cultivate the mode of goodness. If we are still very much in the mode of passion and ignorance, living a passionate lifestyle or an ignorant lifestyle, and you all know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it happens to me too. Sometimes we're still affected by passion and ignorance. Then we can't expect to really understand Krishna scientifically. We might have faith, we might have love, and that's good. But to understand scientifically, vijnana, to have the sort of realization that Narada Muni is talking about, we have to recognize that scientific prerequisite is to be free from the effects of the modes of passion and ignorance, to be established in the mode of goodness, to be happy, free from attachment to material things. Then Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata. Then we can have scientific understanding of God. This is what the materialistic scientists cannot do. Or I should say, rarely can they do this. Because for them, a lifestyle of passion and ignorance is the norm. And I don't mean to be critical or judgmental. I'm not trying to judge any person, but let's be honest. Someone may be, high-level academic, a professor, but their own personal lifestyle, perhaps they're drinking alcohol all the time. They have relationships which are abusive and cruel. How can they expect to know scientifically the nature of this universe? Sutta Goswami is making it very clear. The prerequisite is to be happy in the mode of goodness, at least. And most professional scientists don't do that. There may be some. There are many great thinkers. I don't want to just say all of them are crazy, all of them are bogus. There's a lot of great science in this world. But when it comes to the big questions about the origin of the universe, we have to recognize that they are disqualified by lifestyle. Let's not also disqualify ourselves. We have to cultivate a lifestyle in the mode of goodness to understand Krishna scientifically, to understand God as the origin of everything, the cause of all causes. And that begins with, what does that begin with? Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam every day, serving our spiritual master. Let us not take for granted the amazing, powerful effect that Bhagavatam is having on us. Just because we do it every day, we might kind of forget. But actually, we're in a category of spiritual science which is well above even the most amazing academic professionals in this world. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam daily, it's causing a real effect on the heart. Nashta prayesh abhadreshu, all the inauspicious things in the heart come out so that we can see clearly. A person who's affected by passion, by anger, by frustration, a person who's competing with the other professional academics, and that's very much what professional academics is like. You have to compete with your colleagues. How can they see clearly if they're just desperate to publish another paper and to get paid or to get their tenure? If they're desperate to just have more status in the academy, how can they see clearly what's right before them? That Krishna, God, is the cause of all causes. We can see clearly because by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, that abhadreshu, all that inauspicious stuff in the heart is coming out. The effects of passion and ignorance, they're going away, becoming happy in the mode of goodness. Then you can see so clearly. So I guess my whole point in this little presentation, my dear devotee Prabhus, so I just want to remind all of us how significant it is to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to cultivate a lifestyle of sattva guna, mode of goodness. Then we can understand scientifically the nature of God. It's not a small thing. Many, many great philosophers for thousands, millions of years have struggled to really see the cause of all causes, to really see the nature of everything connected to the Supreme, because they can't even cultivate that lifestyle of goodness. So it's no small thing for us. It's really significant that Srila Prabhupada has helped us to do that. So in conclusion, let us continue to hear Srimad Bhagavatam every day. You have this wonderful Sangha coming together, hearing, inquiring, thinking about it. And as we cultivate more of that lifestyle of mode of goodness, as we're happy in the mode of goodness, guaranteed we will see Krishna as the cause of all causes, behind everything. And ultimately, behind our own lives, as our Supreme Father, as our well-wisher, as our best friend. And then devotion comes very easy, of course. As it says in this verse number 20, Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata, then it becomes so easy, so obvious. Hare Krishna. I think I'll finish there. I hope I gave a brief overview of some of the materialistic theories in the world and why our Srimad Bhagavatam is obviously the best approach to understanding the nature of this universe and the living entity and the cause behind everything. That's what Srila Prabhupada says is a real scientific theory. Not just the nature of the universe, but the living entities also and the cause of all causes. So Srimad Bhagavatam gives us all of that. And we're so fortunate for that. Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening and
Krishna,
hearing me
thank you.
out.
Yeah,
Feels
thank you
clear now.
so much,
Oh.
YASODEVA Prabhu. Thank you so much. So, dear devotees, I would like to say some brief things about our revered speaker from whom we just listened to. Like I said initially, his name is YASODEVA Prabhu. He is, of course, I'm here with him in Gitanagari, but he left home at a very, very early age in search of the meaning of life. And that led him to New Zealand at a very, very, like Prabhupada used the word fertile brain, a very fertile age of 18, where boys are gradually becoming men and they want to enjoy this material world. He was seeking for spirituality, which led him to New Zealand. And he began formal training as a brahmachari in one of the foremost bhakti ashrams there. He served there for 7 years, and then he moved on to Australia, America, Mexico, and then he finally moved on from brahmacharya to Grihastha ashram. He's married to one beautiful Vaishnavi, Nandini Devi, and they have 2 beautiful children. We can all attest to his style of preaching, that he preaches to elites, he preaches to educated class of people in society, and actually where he's living at is very close to Penn State College, which is one of the finest universities in the US country as a whole. And from his preaching to these students, from time to time, he brings along so many of the students to Gitanagari for retreats and for enlightenment. And lots of the time, these students, they come, excuse me, they come and they perform lots of services like go service. They come, they take care of the cows, they feed the cows, they bathe the cows, they milk the cows, and they also do lots of services in the temple environment in general. And they also listen to Krishna consciousness katha. And Prabhuji, I heard His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj is coming to Gitanagari in 2 days' time or so.
Yes.
So, yes. Devamrita Maharaj is the power and the blessing behind our dear brother's intelligence and devotion. So I am very grateful that Prabhuji, you honored our invitation to speak to us, to give us the association love. And with that being said, dear devotees, if anyone has questions, comment, realizations you would like to share, please, you are free to unmute and speak. Hare Krishna. Kusha Prabhu, are you there?
Can I just say before, if anyone has any
yes,
questions,
please
it's
go
great.
ahead.
But just one more thing about the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. I don't mean to brag, but we've been preaching to this fellow who is a nuclear physicist at Penn State.
Yeah.
A guy named Daniel, and he actually designs nuclear reactors. So he's like so smart. You know, we've been talking a lot about nuclear physics today. Here's a person who actually studies nuclear physics. He's not satisfied, you know, with the materialistic explanation of the world. And he's been coming along to our Bhakti Yoga Center. And just very recently, I gave him the full set of Srimad Bhagavatam. Where's my camera? I don't know if you can see it there.
Oh yeah, we can see.
So there you go. Real nuclear scientists.
Oh, sorry. If you may show the photo again, because I spoke, I took you off the screen. I'll be quiet. If you may show the photo again.
Show the photo again. I don't know if it's going to show up well enough on my camera here. You can just barely see. Nice guy. He's got his Bhagavatam set there.
Yeah.
So we're talking about real nuclear scientists. I don't know anything about nuclear science, you know, but this guy is so good he's sent around the world to help people to create nuclear reactors, nuclear power plants. Here's a person who's well educated, but he's not satisfied with the materialistic, explanation of the origin of the universe. And he knows the science. So he's inquiring about Bhakti Yoga. He's read Bhagavad Gita twice, and now I just gave him the Srimad Bhagavatam set. And maybe he'll be impressed by that. So this is real, this is real science. Here's a real scientist, and he's doing real scientific inquiry. And it's something that we do every day. So I guess that's my whole point. This is real spiritual science in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Hare
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm just thinking, just as it is said, that there is really nothing one can offer to Mother Ganga, which is much powerful, much better than her own water. So we fetch Mother Ganga, and then we offer it back to her, and she's pleased with us. So I do not think there is any better way of glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam than trying to study it and speaking it and sharing it. And that's what we're trying to do. So thank you.
Yes.
Devotees, if anyone has questions, please, you may do so. Prabhuji, if I may put the verse back on the screen, because I have a question from the verse. Sorry, the purport, I should say. In the purport, I think is the third sentence, and I've highlighted it here. Srila Prabhupada says, the manifested world, as well as the spirit soul, is still unexplained by the godless atheists through the medium of experimental knowledge, although they have put forward many theories manufactured by their fertile brains. And this is my reason for asking my question. Oftentimes, when we do not have fertile brains, we're considered mad or crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Here, these people have fertile brains, yet they are unable to understand. So that tells me that there must be a different type of brain to understand this concept. And if that is the case, then what sort of brain do we need to understand this concept of the manifest world, the spirit soul, and the supreme controller?
That's a great question, Prabhu. I think from what I understand from Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, some people, they have a lot of intelligence. It's a symptom of good karma, one of the symptoms of good karma. But if that intelligence has been hijacked by materialism, then they use it for ridiculous things. A great example is this nuclear bomb. It takes a lot of intelligence about physics, about science to create a nuclear bomb, an atomic bomb. But that's Maya Prahita Jnana. The intelligence is there, but it's been stolen by illusion. At the end of this purport, Prabhupada hints that, if you could put it up again on the screen, at the end he says the intelligent person, if they have genuine inquiry, then they can learn by hearing from someone who knows the truth. What does it say at the end of this purport?
Yeah.
The symmetry of creation and its regulative actions and reactions suggest the plan of an intelligent brain behind them, and by genuine inquiry, one may find out the ultimate cause with the help of one who knows them factually. So if you're asking me, what is the difference? What makes for a real fertile brain? Someone who's really intelligent is not just smart because they have good karma. They're not just intelligent because they've studied in school, but they've come in contact with someone who knows spiritual science. So we can't just do it ourselves. I think Srimad Bhagavatam makes very clear that we cannot understand God by ourselves. We can understand a lot about this world with our own intelligence. We can understand a lot about ourselves. We can understand biology. We can understand economics, chemistry, technologies. But understanding God, the cause of all causes, it can't be done just by ourselves. So even though one has a fertile brain, even though one might be very intelligent, Still, they need the guidance of the Guru, of the sadhus and the Shastra. That's the only way we can understand God. In fact, I was just reading this verse the other day. I don't think I'll be able to pull it up fast enough. But it was said by Shukadeva Goswami that even someone who's very intelligent, they cannot understand God except by his mercy. So I think that's the difference, Prabhu. There are many people with fertile brains. There's many intelligent, brilliant people in this world. Brilliant artists, brilliant politicians, brilliant scientists. But understanding God is the result of his mercy. And that mercy is often manifest through his devotees. What do you think? Is that a decent explanation of the difference between the fertile brain and the real devotee?
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of forgot about Srila Prabhupada's statement here, where you made reference to the symmetry of creation. So even here, I don't know, please help me if I'm getting it wrong, but I'm understanding that Srila Prabhupada is saying, and by genuine inquiry, one may find out the ultimate cause with the help of one who knows them factually. And I'm trying to understand why Srila Prabhupada used this word factually. And it seems to me this factually means one who knows by experience, by realization. Someone who is speaking out of experience, not just theoretically, because like Srila Prabhupada used the word vijanam, which you talked about scientifically, means that you experiment and then you see the results. You actually can come about the end result of what you're trying to, experiment. So if we approach someone who does not know these things factually, then that could also hamper our ability to know it. Could that be a possibility?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. Factually means one who knows and one who sees Krishna, God, as the origin of creation. They see it, just as we can see. I'll give a little comparison. You know, I have children. You just saw one of them. My 5-year-old child. We're visiting my father right now. That's why I'm on a funny screen. I'm visiting my father. I have to do some. So I'm at his house. And when my children come, they don't see my father's house. They can't see it in that way. Maybe if I explain it to them, I'll say, this is grandfather's house. This is where he lives. You know, he pays for it. But when a child walks into a house, what is the first thing they see? Some toys, something to play with. They just don't have the intelligence yet to see the origin behind the home. Similarly, as we grow in Krishna consciousness, as we become intelligent by reading SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, we see this whole world in the same way. Right now, speaking for myself, we're kind of like children. We just see the toys. Here's a nice car, here's a new phone, here's a pretty woman or a nice man. But to see factually means to actually see the origin behind it, to see Krishna. Just like it's so easy for me to see my father behind this house. I walk into the house and I think of my father. It's his place. So similarly, the devotees, one who sees factually, they see Krishna as the origin behind everything, just as clearly and just as obviously. So I think that's what that means, factual, right? When you're saying factual, it means to see, vijnana, to realize. We should all have such realization. By Prabhupada's grace, we can.
Well, thank you so much. Kusha Prabhu, please unmute.
Hi, Kusha Prabhu. Nice to see you.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, thank you. How are you doing? My question is on the mercy of Krishna through his devotees. Which of the devotees? Is it the devotees who offend other devotees? How can Krishna's mercy flow through such devotees?
That's a tough question for me to answer. Yes, if we offend Vaishnavas, of course, it's very inauspicious for our spiritual life. We might have to go through many lifetimes to recover from that. But still, what is gained in bhakti is never lost. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita, it's never lost. But we might go through many, many lifetimes. What is that verse we recite sometimes in the morning in the temple?
Shastakam?
can't remember it now. The one who has offenses and chanting the holy names, they might be chanting for many, many lifetimes before they attain Krishna prema. So Krishna's mercy is still there, even for a person who has offended Vaishnavas. He never leaves. But that person must suffer the result of their offenses. Actually, my spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Swami, once said this about my own mother, Hare Krishna. And she is suffering a lot. So maybe there's some truth to this scientifically. When I first got interested in Krishna consciousness, as Sahadev Prabhu, he put it really nicely, but actually I ran away from home because I was depressed and crazy. I ran away to New Zealand and I met the devotees there. And I would call my family and I'd call my mother sometimes. And I say, now I'm chanting Hare Krishna. Now I'm a brahmachari, I'm a monk. And she was so offended. She was at that time Catholic. And she felt like this was blasphemy and I was worshiping the devil. And so she would curse. She would say very foul language against me and against Krishna. I mean, all our favorite 4-letter words is what she would use. Krishna and like this and like that. And I told my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Devamrita Swami, and he said, she will have to suffer for her offenses to Krishna and to the devotees, but she's benefited by chanting Krishna's names. That's what he said to me. He said, that's great. She's chanted Krishna's names. She'll be benefited by that after she suffers the offense for blaspheming, for cursing Krishna and his devotees. And it's true, actually, my mother is suffering a lot right now. Hare Krishna. I tried to help, but. So my understanding of that, Kusha Prabhu, is that even the devotee who has offended Vaishnavas, they will still get the mercy of the Lord, but after they suffer the results of their offenses, and those offenses can be very serious. We of course have many examples in SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. But the Lord's mercy never leaves the devotee.
My question is, how can Krishna's mercy flow through a devotee to other devotees when the devotee is offending devotees? Because we live with this illusion that you are offending a devotee, Vaishnava Aparad, while the person himself is offending everybody else. How can I get a mercy from such a devotee from Krishna? I thought devotional service is individual. Why should, if devotional service is individual, why do I need Krishna's mercy to pass through somebody before he comes to me?
Yeah. Yes, that's a great question, Prabhu. One that I struggle to understand also. I apologize for misunderstanding the first part of the question. Yeah, we see that often, there have been many devotees, even in ISKCON, who have done great service. They've spread Krishna consciousness, but then later they've been found to be really offensive to other Vaishnavas. We heard about a recent case, unfortunately, with that Maharaj and with that Swami, former Swami in Mayapur. So we can wonder, how is it that they were able to give Krishna consciousness to others if they're also so offensive? But we should see that the Lord can help a person through some medium, but then they might come to the Sangha of other devotees who are more healthy spiritually. I was introduced to Krishna consciousness by a person who's no longer practicing bhakti, but they were a very valuable tool. The Lord wanted to engage them in that service for their benefit. Perhaps this is how the Lord is giving mercy to that person who's even offensive, to let them continue to do even a little bit of service before they might fall away for many lifetimes. So the Lord's mercy, we often say in Christianity, the Lord works in mysterious ways, right? So perhaps that's how the Lord is being merciful even to that person, to let them do a little bit of service, that they can still connect someone to Krishna, or that person might connect them to other devotees who are a bit healthier in bhakti. The Lord is so amazing that he can use any instrument. We might think, no, only the best instrument can be used, but an expert can use any instrument. Maybe some people who are so good at music, they can play anything, right? I can only play one instrument, a little bit of guitar, and it has to be very finely tuned. It's got to be perfect. But some people, they can pick up anything and they can play any song. Someone like that? So the Lord, he's so amazing. He can use anything as an instrument, anyone. So I think we should try to see it in this way. This is my personal opinion, that even if a person is found to be offensive to Vaishnavas, even if they're found to be struggling with something, still the Lord is giving them a chance to do a little service. That doesn't mean that we should worship someone who is not qualified. That doesn't mean that we should forget about someone's offenses, but we should recognize that the Lord can still give mercy even to that person.
Thank you.
What do you think, Kusha Prabhu? Do you agree? This is just
I
my
agree,
opinion.
you are right. But Prabhupada also said we shouldn't, like, we will touch the feet of a pure devotee. Devotees are bound. Sometimes we are used to touching people's feet, even the offensive ones. And suddenly you yourself, you become offensive because you have touched the feet of an offensive devotee.
Yeah. Yeah, Rupa Goswami advises us to recognize different qualities of devotees. We do have to judge a little bit. He says the Uttama Adhikari, the
Yeah.
Madhyama Adhikari, the Kanishta. And he says that for those who are not very strong in bhakti, we should offer respect, but from a distance.
Yeah.
Meaning still we should respect someone's service, but we shouldn't associate with them. If they are offensive, if they can cause problems, we should still have respect in our heart, but we don't have to associate with them if they are offensive. That's something that I try to do. Of course, there's so many devotees who upset me. They do things that I think is just crazy, but still within my heart, I try to respect. Well, they're trying to serve Krishna. I can't associate with you. It's just, but still I respect that they have some affection for Krishna.
This leads me
Isn't
to my
that-
second question.
Oh.
How do we distinguish, I can associate with you because you're offensive, with discrimination?
How should we discriminate?
Yeah, because we may be accused of being racist or discriminatory against a devotee, a fellow human being. And we think we are practicing devotional service principles.
Yes. No, I totally understand. That's been a challenge for me also. Yeah, we could be perceived as being discriminatory, racist, sexist. People can make a lot of excuses, but ultimately we have to look after our own bhakti lata bija. We're growing devotion in our heart and we have to protect it. And that's the most important thing. And if there's someone who is ruining our devotion, if they're upsetting us and it's affecting our devotion for Krishna, then we should avoid that person. And that's the most important thing. And if someone doesn't understand, we can try to explain. You know what? When I'm around this devotee, it just agitates me. It's hard for me to think about love of Krishna because this person acts in a way that's affecting me. Maybe it's just my karma. We can try to be humble and recognize maybe it's my karma. We don't synchronize very well. We're not compatible. It's me. That's the humble thing to do. It's actually me. I'm just unable to be compatible with this person. But I think it's so important for us to protect our bhakti lata bija. And if there's someone who is ruining it, then we should offer respect from a distance. We shouldn't sacrifice our devotion just for political correctness.
Yeah.
There are many people I struggle to listen to, even, big sannyasis and gurus, but I just can't listen. I just, Hare Krishna. But I still, I have respect. But I just we're very different. ISKCON is worldwide. We're all so different. It's amazing that we can even come together and chant Hare Krishna. It's just a miracle because we're all so different. And Kali Yuga is just crazy. And so I think it's okay that we don't all have to be in the same room at the same time, but we should still respect everybody, even devotees who are different from us, even devotees who have had troubles, even devotees who have committed offenses. We should respect them, even if we don't necessarily associate intimately.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, at least.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm not an expert, though. I'm definitely not an expert. I'm just trying my best to.
You are a pure
stay in the
devotee.
sangha of devotees.
Prabhu is online, Sadev.
Yes,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, please give me unmute.
Oh, we can't hear you.
We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Is it now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Right. So, yeah, my obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Assembly devotees. Actually, I love this interaction with the academic communities and hearing about this nuclear reactor guy showing interest in Bhagavatam. Now, my question is, when we see scientists who are very good in their area and at the same time showing interest in spiritual life, it's very encouraging. And we can imagine that such a person will benefit a lot, from the spiritual literatures. But that is in the West. In the West, you have the scientists, nuclear reactionists to reactor, those who create, nuclear reactors, etc. That's the West. But in Africa, we have other type of scientists.
What does that mean?
Yeah, we have other type of scientists in Africa who are very expert in nuclear reactions of all types, spiritually. They are very, very deep into, analyzing matters and using matter in a very subtle manner, So I'm trying to see both worlds, the Western world and the African, and this, yes, let me say the Asian world, where we have people who are interested in how matter works or how the subtle matter, and they are very capable of manipulating them. Both of them are highly respected in their areas. The nuclear scientists are highly respected for what they're capable of doing, and we know what they could do. And then these spiritual scientists who are also capable of manipulating matter in many ways, they're also highly respected, right? Now the question is, we, the devotees of Krishna, we claim, or we seem to be superior to both of them, or we know better. But in what way would people actually admire what we're capable of doing? Like you talk about that scientist you gave Bhagavatam, you said he's building nuclear reactors for people. So this is some competence from his knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the African one, maybe you have no idea. Yeah, but these are mystics,
I see.
who are capable of, analyzing matter and using subtle matter in every respect you can imagine. They can fly from, one area to another without using plane, all that stuff. They can do anything, And we know this thing exists. They were living with them, right? We're living with them here. So they're also respected in their area.
Mm-hmm.
They through their study, they really, if you get in touch with some of these people, you'll be shocked how much knowledge they have of matter in general, and that's why they're able to manipulate it. Yeah. So I'm saying both spiritual scientists, mystics, and the material scientists who are capable of doing many things, they are respected for what they're capable of doing. Can you tell me what are the devotees are appreciated for based on their knowledge? If I can just add one last thing. It is said that the Brahmins in the past, they have so many competencies. You have Kaviraj, you have this, that, you have astronomists, and so on. They also have some competencies, based on their spiritual knowledge, right? Here we are in ISKCON. We philosophize a lot. We go theorize a lot. We talk a lot of philosophy. What are we going to be asked? What are we contributing? What will make people appreciate the kind of spiritual science we have? In what way are we demonstrating that? What capacity are we making? What difference are we making, to people? That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu, that's such a great concern, because we want ISKCON to have a legacy all over the world. In some places, having that legacy means also making advances in modern Western academic science that helps to add to ISKCON's legacy. In other places, it means also showing our mystical power. One time Srila Prabhupada was questioned about what mystic power he has. Someone inquired from him, do you have mystic power, yoga siddhis? And he said, my power is that I transformed all of these young men and women into devotees of Krishna, something that very few people have ever done before. This is a mystical power. And I think that's really what we can do best. If there are devotees who are scientifically inclined, they should pursue that and show science and our knowledge of Krishna consciousness can be compatible and beneficial. If there are devotees who have the sort of mystic powers that you're talking about, they should be able to show that Krishna is the origin of this power. He is Yogeshwara. If they can do that, then that's how they can show. But all of us can contribute to spreading Krishna consciousness, and in that way establishing a legacy for ISKCON, because it already is so remarkable. What ISKCON has done is very uncommon. It's very uncommon for, within only a few decades, for a genuine spiritual movement to go all around the world and survive. There's been spiritual movements that quickly fall apart as soon as the charismatic leader has left. But ISKCON is something very special. Here we are speaking in the African continent, in the American continent. My wife is from Kazakhstan. I've been to Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, where there are devotees chanting Hare Krishna inside of very old temples from the time of Zoroaster, but they're chanting Hare Krishna, singing and dancing. I think that this is what establishes an amazing legacy for ISKCON. If we can make advances in the mystic arts, if we can make advances in politics, if we can make advances in science, that's great. But what we can all do is spread Krishna consciousness and add to Srila Prabhupada's legacy in that way. And I think that's the most mystical thing. When Prabhupada answered about his mystical powers, he said, my mystic power is that I made all these young people into devotees of Lord Krishna. I hope that's a sufficient answer, Prabhu. I don't know much about the mystic arts, the yoga cities, but I do know that we can connect everything to Krishna, and in that way gain fame and reputation amongst both Eastern and Western people and all continents of the world. We just have to connect whatever we can do to Krishna and show everyone the best of everything is connected to Krishna.
Very good. I like that. I like that.
Thank you for very interesting question.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I have
Prabhu, I
another
don't mean to be
question,
rude,
please,
but-
before you go.
I really have to go, unfortunately. I'm so sorry.
Don't escape. Just 2 minutes. You know,
Right.
you know, in the Battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna was saying the soldiers who are killed will attend to heavenly planet. So my question is, now there is a war between Russia and Ukraine, and many devotees have been killed because they were military men. So the country inscribed them to go and fight the war.
Yeah.
So based that we are in Kali Yuga, the effect of the Kurukshetra Krishna was talking about, those devotees, they've been killing so many of them. Are they going to heavenly planet?
No, I don't think so. I don't
Why?
think that because it's not a fight. It's not a fight which is explicitly in Krishna's interest. In the battle of Kurukshetra,
They are doing their prescribed duty.
yes, and so they might advance into another human form of life. Maybe even some will go to heavenly planets, but I don't think that devotees who have fought and died in this current war in Ukraine and Russia are going to go back to Godhead for that. I don't think that it's not, you know, the devotees in Kurukshetra, they got liberation because they were in the presence of Krishna as they were dying.
Yes.
You know, that's a very special thing.
Yes.
And if one does their duty, you know, according to Varna and Ashrama, they certainly advance in the human form of life, or they advance to heavenly planets, but they don't necessarily go back to Godhead just by that. I think that this particular war lacks the dharma of real kshatriyas. That's my opinion. Again, this is very political, but I don't think that this has the same dharma as the kshatriyas of you know, the Pandavas and even Duryodhana. I think this is just another manipulation by Kali Yuga leaders who are sending young people to die for their own egos. And I don't think it's very beneficial for anybody. I would hope that devotees would leave that area, and I really hope devotees don't fight in the war. But I have heard, yes, that many devotees have actually enlisted, which I find a little shocking personally. I feel like we have something a lot more important to do than fighting wars. You should leave that to somebody else. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I concur. I agree with you perfectly. I was also hoping that when the war started, the devotees, if possible, those who are able to, will have to flee. They have to leave. But some chose to stay behind. Well, we are all individuals, but I don't think I would do that. If I have the means of escaping, I would.
Yeah.
I mean,
we haven't experienced having your home attacked, you know. I can imagine you'd want to defend your home and your family and your land if you can. But still, yeah, if we can escape these things, I think that's the most important. Devotees have something much more important to do than fighting in the petty conflicts of Kali Yuga demagogues, you know. These politicians, they don't have our interests at heart. And so I think we have something much more important to do than participating in their wars. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much. So on this note, we're going to
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Govinda Prabhu, okay.
Oh. Hare Krishna.
Go ahead, Prabhuji. Since Prabhuji thought we were done, but go ahead before he leaves.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Gurudev, all glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Right.
Prabhu, I have several questions.
Oh.
But I think, yeah, because, you know, your time is already spent and you're ready to go. So I want to ask this one question.
Okay, just one, please. I'm sorry, but I really have to run in just a moment.
All right. So, see, we always put emphasis on hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is nothing but the glories of Krishna and his devotees. And by hearing such glories of the Lord, one becomes purified at heart, and that one draws closer and closer to Krishna. So, you know, Krishna is unlimited, and he's no different from his name. And this same Krishna name is being mentioned elsewhere in other books, other religious books that are also speaking about the same Krishna. And people, you know, go to church and other processes, try to understand Krishna. And yes, they go with a heart of understanding Krishna and love him. And what we have been hearing about not committing sinful activities, of course, one can hear all the glories of the Lord. And if he keeps committing sinful activities, I don't think that person will have a chance in the spiritual world. So also the other religious bodies, they also go to church and mosque and other, you know, processes that they follow. They're also hearing the same glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what makes us different from them? Is it that the names that we are hearing in Bhagavatams, that makes what we are hearing more potent?
Yes.
Or what? Because if, you know, love of God is the goal, then that love of God can also be cultivated somewhere else. So why do we then emphasize more on hearing Srimad Bhagavatam? Is it because of the names you are hearing, the pastimes you are hearing, that makes it potent, or something else? Let us know, please.
As far as I know, yes, Prabhu, that's exactly the case. Anyone can say the name of Allah, Jehovah, but these are referring to qualities of God. When we say the name Krishna is the best name because that's the name that Mother Yashoda uses, because that's the name that Srimati Radharani uses. It's the most intimate understanding. It's the name spoken by the Lord's dearest devotees. So saying the name of Krishna is best, not just because we are Hare Krishnas and we're the best, but because that's the most intimate understanding of the Lord. The description of the Lord in Srimad Bhagavatam is the most intimate description of the Lord and his activities. So it is significant. Of course, everyone is benefited by chanting the names of God in their own languages, of course. But saying the name of Krishna is the best because that's the name that Nanda Maharaj uses. That's the name that Yashoda uses. Kanaya, Lala, Bala. That's why it's most dear. Hare Krishna. That's all I know about chanting Hare Krishna. Just, I know that the Lord's dear devotees say the name Krishna, and so I just want to do the same as them. Thank you for such a sweet and very interesting question, Prabhu. But yes,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
The dear devotees that speak it.
So, dear devotees, we humbly requesting you all to kindly unmute And we all chant Hare Krishna mantra to express our appreciation to our blessed His grace.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama
Ram,
Hare
Hare Ram, Ram
Itarugi
Ram,
Vaschat,
Hare
Vipasya
Hare.
Divyasi Vaschat, Patitanam
Panchakavatam
Pavanam
Vyascha,
Pavanam
Patitanam
Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai.
Namaha.
Thank you so
All
much.
praise to His grace, Yasodeva Prabhu ki.
Jai.
Krishna. Hare Hare
Thank you
Bol.
so much for your Sangha Prabhu. So nice to meet all of you. So nice to have your association. Hope to
Hare
see you all
Krishna.
again soon. Thank you, Sahadev, for organizing all of this. All
Hare
glories to
Krishna.
yourself.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.